Yeah, the darkness of Memphis is what makes it so cool, though. Because that's what created our music. We could have never made songs like that in another city. That we wouldn't even have those vibes. The darkness of Memphis and, you know, the rain and stuff like that.
But for me, Memphis is way more worse. It's like no code. I was around, man. Pimp players and drug dealers. Pimp players and Max. Well, it's like, I mean, because, you know, it's a lot of robbing going on in the city, you know.
They came out of Memphis with a sound nobody had heard before. Dark, raw, unapologetic. 3-6 Mafia weren't just making music, they were documenting a lifestyle. But behind the accolades and an Oscar win was something else, something real. A web of street ties, violent neighborhoods, and one of the most dangerous drug kingpins in American history. DJ Paul's own half-brother.
Most dangerous man Memphis has ever known. This man, a drug dealer with ties to Mexican cartels.
His name is Craig Pettis. A lot of you are going, oh yeah. He's serving 9 life sentences in the federal pen for murder, conspiracy, drug, bunch of charges.
Let's get into it.
Memphis. It's known for blues, barbecue, and something else.
Memphis is rough, man. For real.
This city breeds hardcore killers.
I tell you one thing about people from Memphis, they can go to any city and survive.
If you really want to get 3-6 Mafia, you've got to get Memphis, Tennessee. It's a city full of contrast, yeah. It's famous for blues music and great BBQ, but back in the 90s, Memphis was bleeding. Almost any night you can turn on the TV news and hear about another shooting in Memphis. The Shelby County Sheriff's Department has identified approximately 8,400 gang members and 182 gangs and gang sets in the county. In interviews, DJ Paul has repeatedly described the Memphis of his youth as a dark city and a ratchet environment, a place where the grim realities of urban decay were inescapable. He recounts growing up hearing stories of casual brutality, such as a woman being shot through her window while washing dishes, and concludes, there wasn't any other music to make, growing up in dark surroundings.
The darkness of Memphis is what makes it so cool, though. Because that's what created our music. We could have never made songs like that in another city. That we wouldn't even have those vibes. The darkness of Memphis and, you know, the rain and stuff like that is what made it.
And this is a take that is backed by history. The Memphis rap scene, especially groups like 8 Ball and MJG, Yo Gotti, and 3-6 Mafia, pulled straight from the real-life chaos around them. Memphis had a reputation back then: high murder rates, constant robberies, pimp culture, and violent gang wars, especially in black neighborhoods. That was the reality they were living in and rapping about.
Memphis is also one of the deadliest cities in the country.
It was folks dead everywhere. Dead in the garbage can, dead in the snow, dead standing up on the wall. Just death.
Memphis was the kind of place where it really felt like kill or be killed. If you could afford a weapon, you carried one not to look tough, but just to survive. Almost anyone could be a target, especially with rival gangs everywhere. While cities like LA were dealing with the Bloods and Crips, and Chicago had the gangster disciples and vice lords, Memphis was fighting its own inside war. A mix of imported gang culture and local violence that made the streets feel like a battlefield. In this climate of decay and survival, a sound emerged. Isolated from East Coast boom bap and West Coast G-funk, Memphis bred a lo-fi, eerie, and brutally raw sonic identity, the DNA of 3-6 Mafia. 3-6 Mafia is one of the most influential groups in American music. They came out of Memphis, Tennessee in 1991, starting with DJ Paul, Paul Beauregard, Juicy J, Jordan Houston, and Lord Infamous, Ricky Dunnigan. Together, they created a raw, gritty sound that has helped shape Southern hip-hop for years to come. The name 3-6 Mafia came from a line Lord Infamous rapped while they were still going by Backyard Posse. He said 666 Mafia, and it stuck. The dark, almost eerie vibe of the name matched the style of their music. Some people also say the name came from the group growing from 3 members to 6. Either way, it added to the mystery and rumors, including talk about whether they were actually tied to street crime or something even darker. Mystic Styles wasn't just an album, it was a manifesto. Tracks like Break the Law 95 and In the Game told stories of street economics, gang justice, and brutality. Lyrics lyrics weren't coded, they were confessions. 3-6. Mafia didn't just represent the streets through their lyrics, you could see it in how they moved, dressed, and branded themselves. One of the group's members, Darnell Crunchy Black Carlton, stood out for something else, a dance called Gangsta Walking, or G-Walking. This dance wasn't just for show. It had deep roots in Memphis club culture, going all the way back to the 1980s. It's a mix of fast, sharp steps, stomps, and smooth twists. It became a big part of how the group performed and connected with their audience, a physical expression of the same street energy you heard in their music.
Memphis Gangsta Walk dance. Check it out. Up, up. It's your birthday.
Crunchy Black didn't create Gangsta Walking, but he definitely put it on the map. His moves in music videos and live shows helped push the dance into the national spotlight, and because it was literally called Gangsta Walking, it doubled down on the tough, street-smart image 3-6 Mafia was building. It looked like what their music sounded like. Even their name played a big part in that branding. They started out as the Backyard Posse, but it seems like that didn't carry the kind of weight they were looking for. It was Lord Infamous who first dropped the line 666 Mafia in a rap, and it stuck. The name fit the dark, heavy vibe of their music perfectly. Later, they tweaked it to 3-6 Mafia to make it more palatable for a mainstream audience, but the meaning stayed the same. Calling themselves Mafia wasn't just for flair, it was a calculated move. It linked them to the idea of organized crime, powerful, feared, and untouchable. That fit right into the image gangsta rap was built on. From lyrics about guns and drugs to even darker references, like the Antichrist, they rapped what they knew AW stories pulled straight from the world they grew up in. The name wasn't just catchy, it was a warning. Mafia wasn't a metaphor, it was gospel.
For the first time, members of a DEA task force are speaking about the investigation and capture of one of the most dangerous men Memphis has ever known. This man, a drug dealer with ties to Mexican cartels.
His name is Craig Pettis.
But the dark streets of Memphis weren't the only thing that shaped 3-6 Mafia's lifestyle or their music. Sure, the sound and the city helped build their image, but what really stands out are the real-life connections. We're not just talking about aggressive lyrics or wild music videos. We're talking about actual court records, real-life violence, and maybe most shocking, a direct family tie to one of America's most dangerous drug lords. From minor arrests to whispers of involvement with international drug cartels, the picture that forms isn't just a rap persona. It's deeper than that. It's a messy, complicated, and very real trail that gives their Mafia name a weight most people always suspected. Petties didn't just run street corners. He ran a cartel-linked empire. Partnering with Mexico's Beltran Leyva cartel, he trafficked over 1,000 kilos of coke across the South. Petties was responsible for at least 6 known murders and funneled millions through BMF, the infamous Black Mafia family. And in many ways, it looked a lot like the Mafia DJ Paul rapped about. But this wasn't fiction. This was street-level power, cartel connections, and a trail of violence that stretched across borders. Currently speaking, Craig Petties is serving 9 life sentences in a U.S. federal prison, locked away with no chance of parole.
Oh yeah, he's serving 9 life sentences in the federal pen for murder, conspiracy, drug, bunch of charges.
The Craig Petties connection shows how deep the roots ran, but it wasn't just about him. The members of 3-6 Mafia had their own run-ins with the law too. Now to be clear, this doesn't mean the group itself was one big organized criminal gang, far from it. But what it does show is a pattern. Some of them were knee-deep in street life, while others tried to stay out of it as much as possible. Each member had a different story, different levels of exposure, and different choices. But the line between rap and reality, it wasn't always easy to tell, and for some, that line was crossed more than once. One member who stood out when it came to legal trouble was Crunchy Black real name, Darnell Carlton. In March 2015, he was arrested in Minnesota on some pretty serious charges. Police responded to a domestic violence call and found his fiancée injured along with in his possession. He was hit with 2 felony charges for domestic assault and another for drug possession. To make things worse, Crunchy didn't show up to court. That led to a warrant being issued for his arrest.
And he said, "Now you straight, come on. You cool, Crunchy. Crunchy, you cool, come on." And you the one got the what's name on?
Nigga, I had a pistol all the way up to the 6th floor.
Just 1 month later, he was arrested again in Las Vegas. This time, it was for possession of crystal meth after police stopped him for jaywalking. During that arrest, they found he had 2 outstanding warrants. One from the earlier domestic violence case, and another for drug possession. His record shows a repeated pattern of charges involving violence and hard drugs. Lord Infamous, real name Ricky Dunnigan, also had his share of legal trouble. In 2006, he was forced to leave the group after going to jail, which violated his contract with Sony. That same year, public records show he was convicted of criminal possession of a weapon. Then there's DJ Paul. Despite being the half-brother of a major drug kingpin, his own record is pretty light. In 2012, he was arrested in New York for carrying a taser and drinking in public. He said the taser was for self-defense. He eventually pleaded guilty to a lesser charge and was sentenced to community service. Juicy J, on the other hand, has kept a clean slate, no known criminal record. Even though his lyrics often touched on drugs, violence, and street life, he never seemed to get caught up in it personally. A lot of people believe he stayed focused on the business side of things and kept his distance from the streets. So what does all this tell us? That 3-6 Mafia wasn't one thing. Some of them lived the life they rapped about. Others were just telling the story. It was never a one-size-fits-all situation, and that's what made them real. But sometimes, even when you've tried to step away from that life, it finds a way to reach back, and the results can be heartbreaking. On August 28, 2020, Crunchy Black's 26-year-old daughter, Ashley Carter, was murdered along with her boyfriend, Wakwell Richardson. They were both shot and killed at the Fairview Inn and Suites in Memphis. When police arrested the suspect, 31-year-old Lamont Murray, his motive was chilling. He told investigators that the double murder was revenge, a gang retaliation tied to another double homicide that happened just 2 weeks earlier. This wasn't just random violence. It was a direct result of ongoing gang conflicts in Memphis, and it hit one of the group's own families. It's a painful reminder. Even if you're no longer active in that world, the consequences don't always fade. Gang ties, whether from the past or still present, can follow you, and they can reach the people you love most. For many fans, especially those from Memphis, it felt real. 3-6 Mafia's lyrics sounded less like rap verses and more like street codes, warnings, and confessions. Take their debut album, Mystic Styles, released in 1995. It's seen by many as the blueprint for what 3-6 Mafia would become. Dark, aggressive, raw, and unapologetically street. The sound was underground, almost eerie. It came from the heart of a city already soaked in crime and gang violence. The content wasn't subtle. In the track Break the Law 95, DJ Paul raps about committing crimes just to survive. He says, "I'm breaking laws, trying to make a living. I'm taking jaws, better call a dentist." That line isn't symbolic. He's talking about hurting people and breaking the law as a way of life. In Memphis, for many, that was the reality. Then there's In Da Game. It doesn't try to hide what it's about. Gangsta Boo chants over and over, "Dope game, dope game, dope game." The message is crystal clear. This is a track about the drug trade, about how and street hustling were central to life and survival. They weren't rapping from imagination. These were the things they saw around them every day. Other tracks added more layers to that image. In Live by Yo Rep, a diss aimed at Bone Thugs and Harmony, Lord Infamous spits violent threats like, "I'm the one that's creeping up out of the cut with a 12-gauge pump, ready to buck." That's not just rap beef. It's delivered like a warning message from one side of town to another. That kind of language, that kind of tone, carried weight on the streets. And then there's Put Ya Signs, from their 2000 album, When the Smoke Clears. That track focused on one thing: throwing up your set, claiming your neighborhood, your side, your crew. In gang culture, throwing signs isn't a dance move. It's a way to let others know where you stand and who you're with. So when 3-6 Mafia made a whole track about that, they weren't just making club music, they were speaking directly to those who lived by those codes. Even the beat and the energy in that song reflect that attitude. proud, territorial, and ready for confrontation. Over time, fans began to see the pattern. Songs like Live by Yo Rep, Who Run It, and Put Ya Signs weren't metaphors. They were battle cries, messages that only some people would truly understand. And while there's no confirmed proof that these songs were linked to specific gang orders or real-life events, many people believe they were laced with real messages, meant for real street soldiers. The deeper you go into their catalog, the clearer it becomes. This wasn't just music. For some, it was a code, a form of communication, a soundtrack to a dangerous life in a dangerous city.
What's up, Lord Infamous, from the 3-6 Mafia and the Cheddar Club of Thugs. Finna kick a little flow out here for Mad Dog. Something like this here. Essence of the blessings keep me puzzled like enigma. My partner put me down with.
In 2013, Lord Infamous was found dead at his mother's home in Memphis. The official cause? A drug-induced heart attack. But for a lot of fans and even people close to him, something about it didn't sit right. Not necessarily the way he died, but the weight of who he was. Lord Infamous wasn't just another member of 3-6 Mafia. He was the one who pulled their sound into the shadows. While others spit raw street verses, he went somewhere darker, tapping into horror, paranoia, and a kind of evil that felt way too real. They called him the Scarecrow, and if you've ever listened to his verses, you know why. Back in 2006, he suddenly disappeared from the group's lineup. There was no drama, no headlines, just silence. Turns out, it was jail time. He violated his Sony contract, and just like that, he was gone. Records later showed it was for criminal possession of a weapon. When he came back, it was through Mafia 6, a spin-off of the original crew. He hit the studio again, but something had changed. The energy was different, slower, heavier, not the same. And then, just a few years later, he was gone.
And in our situation, I love y'all.
Yeah.
But I got to do me.
Answer me this, Crunchy. When Lord Infamous passed and Cooks the nigga passed.
I died. Part of me gone right now.
Yeah.
The moment hit hardest for Crunchy Black, who broke down in an interview sobbing, "He was my only friend. It was raw, real." The kind of grief that doesn't come from losing a co-worker, but from losing a soul-tied brother. In many ways, Lord Infamous embodied the soul of 3-6 Mafia. The side that wasn't for radio play, not the awards, not the plaques, the side that stared back when the lights went off. And if the group's ties to violence and gang culture run deeper than lyrics, Lord Infamous was proof that some of those ties weren't just metaphors, they were warnings. So what does all this really tell us? That gang ties within 3-6 Mafia weren't one size fits all. Not everyone was in the streets, and not everyone stayed out either. Think of it more like a sliding scale, and when you line it up, the group becomes a portrait of contrasts. At one end, there's Jordan Juicy J. Houston, producer, rapper, co-founder. On paper, he's spotless. No arrests, no criminal charges, no official gang affiliations, and yet, his lyrics? They're just as raw and street-heavy as the rest, packed with drug talk, gang-coded language, and menace. But in real life, Juicy J played it differently. He wasn't just part of the group, he was a mega brain on the group. He started producing beats at 16, and while some members were dealing with court dates and probation, Juicy J was out here locking down record deals and steering the ship. He knew what was going on around him, no doubt, but he never got pulled into it. He didn't need the streets to earn respect. He had the beats, the hustle, and the vision to play the long game. Then you've got the middle of that spectrum, Darnell, Crunchy Black Carlton, and Ricky Lord Infamous Dunnigan. These two weren't just rapping about the streets, they were in them. Crunchy Black's record is long and serious. In 2015, he was arrested in Minnesota for felony domestic violence and possession. Just a month later, he got picked up again in Las Vegas, this time with crystal meth and 2 outstanding warrants. We're not talking about minor offenses here. This was ongoing, serious street-level crime, and it continued even after the group hit the mainstream. Lord Infamous, rest his soul, had a quieter criminal history, but just as impactful. In 2006, he was convicted of criminal possession of a weapon. That conviction broke his contract with Sony and forced him out of the group. It wasn't just a personal loss, it was a turning point for the 3-6 Mafia. But what made Lord Infamous truly different wasn't the record, it was the darkness in his music. He didn't rap to glorify the streets, he rapped like someone drowning in them. Songs filled with horror, satanic symbols, cannibalism, mass violence. His verses felt personal, like he wasn't just telling stories, he was surviving them. And in the end, a lot of fans believe he saw too much. And then there's the other co-founder, Paul Beauregard. His link to Memphis gang culture isn't just through atmosphere or imagery, it's personal, it's real. In interviews, DJ Paul has openly said that as a teenager, he got involved with gangs and stuff like that. And honestly, growing up in South Memphis in the 90s, that wasn't unusual. But what sets his story apart runs deeper, much deeper. His half-brother, Craig Petties, wasn't just in the streets, he was running them. He was dangerous. A major drug kingpin with ties to transnational cartels, one of the most feared in Memphis history. That's not just a gang tie, that's blood, family. So when DJ Paul stepped into the studio, was he creating a persona? Or was he simply documenting what he'd seen at the dinner table? Conversations, warnings, a world most rappers could only imagine. This is where the Mafia in 3 6 Mafia stops sounding like branding and starts feeling like biography. What this investigation really uncovers isn't just a list of charges or affiliations. It's something deeper and darker. It reveals a feedback loop where the streets shaped the music, and then the music fed right back into that same environment. Memphis in the 90s was chaotic, violent, divided, gang-infested. 3 6 Mafia didn't just come from that chaos, they recorded it. Lo-fi beats, horrorcore lyrics, gang-coded visuals. It was all pulled straight from what was around them. And while that music took them from street corners to sold-out shows, not everyone left the old life behind. Some still had one foot in the streets. Fame didn't erase the violence, it just gave it a microphone. So, after all the lyrics, interviews, arrests, and family ties, do 3 6 Mafia or its members have gang connections? The answer? Yes. But it's not that simple, and that's what makes this story matter. It's not just about whether gang ties existed, it's about how different those ties looked for each member. A spectrum from surface-level image to deep personal involvement, from studio gangsta to family of a cartel boss. This isn't the story of gangsters who became rappers, and it's not the story of rappers pretending to be gangsters. It's the story of how close those two worlds can get until you can't tell where one ends and the other begins.